Hello there, people of the internet. I've gotten a bunch of requests to show off some things that you guys don't really see all that often. I know a lot of times whenever I make my videos and I'm talking about a particular topic, I'll show off the same firearms, normally like over and over and over, and that's just because I have a particular bias towards particular guns, and it's just the things that I enjoy. So I figured I'd go through the collection and I would find 10 guns. I was going to do 5, but I was like, nah, there's enough here for us to go ahead and do 10. 10 guns that you guys don't really see from the collection all that often, and I figured I'd throw them up on a video for the sake of appeasing the people who are complaining about me showing off the same firearms over and over. I feel like sorry guys, I got the hiccups. I feel like the videos where we're having discussions about particular topics are more about the discussions about the particular topics and not about whatever firearm it is that I'm showing off. But here you go. If you want to see some guns that I don't really show off, this is the time to look. So this right here is a 45 ACP bullpup rifle. I know, YouTube reviewer, it is scary and futuristic looking, but I assure you that this right here is a very not scary gun. It just looks really cool. It's got a 10 round magazine, 45 ACP, that's a pistol cartridge. It is in fact a bullpup, and it does have a full length barrel, so we don't have to worry about any SBR laws or anything like that. This is actually built off of a high point chassis. This is a high point 45 ACP carbine. I can't remember what their designation for it is, but it essentially, I bullpupped a high point. That's what this is. I bullpupped a high point. So now our magazine is down here behind our trigger assembly, and this is something I don't really show off. And I don't really know why I don't show it off. I mean, it's cool looking. It's just not really... I don't want to call it... I don't want to say it's not my cup of tea, because I actually really like it. I just... Normally, whenever I'm showing things off, I'm showing off like old school military surplus guns. And I think for that same reason, that's why I don't show these off either. So number 2 is my hunting rifles. I've got like half a dozen different modern polymer stock hunting rifles chambered in 308. This one's 223. I got 270. I got 30-30, 30-06. I've got a couple of them. And I really don't show them off. And I don't show them off just because they're tools to me and really not all that interesting. If I'm making a video talking about something that revolves around the idea of using a modern hunting rifle, then I'll toss one in. But for the most part, you guys don't see these things. And that's just because as far as my video making goes, I don't find these interesting enough to throw in videos. My interest definitely lies in the old school wood and steel military surplus guns. However, that being said, there are some old school wood and steel military surplus guns that I don't show off simply because they're chambered in weird calibers, or they have such a niche following that most people don't even know what they are. So this is a Mauser model 7184. It is an updated version of Mauser's earliest successful rifle. It is chambered in a really large bore black powder cartridge that you can't find brass for anymore. You can't find any parts for this gun anymore. Like, this is just one of those things that I have, and it's fantastic, and I really, really like it. Then I'll showcase it in videos where I'm sitting here talking about stuff, and maybe I'll, you know, make a Mauser rifle development video at some point. But for the most part, like, there's not much that I can talk about with this thing unless we're talking about specifically this rifle. Most of the discussions that we have, the categories that this would fall into whenever it comes to those discussions, like... And it's not just this gun. If you look at like the old 10.4 Vetterli rifles, or the Gras rifles, or the Martini Henrys, or insert your choice of rifle where it's really hard to find ammo for, it's just, that's what it is. It's just hard to find ammo for. You basically have to make your own brass or spend like 20 bucks per shot for things like that. All right, another one, just a really unusual firearm. This right here might be one of my favorite rifles, but it's pretty gosh darn unusual. This is a Egyptian Hakim, chambered in 8mm Mauser. It is a semi-auto, self-loading 8mm Mauser rifle. I do not know what the sights are calibrated for, whether or not it's 155 grain ammunition, 174 grain, or 198 grain. It's going to be one of those three most likely. Probably the 198 if I had to just make a random guess or assessment. I show this thing off every now and then. It's an unusual gun versus like racking a charging handle or anything like that, like what we're used to. We actually push this slide forward on the receiver, and that exposes a bunch of fire control bits in the rear. And then we would pull it back, and, well, technically, if I were to set this just like the safety on this particular one's a little messed up. If I were to set that just like that, pull this back, we would be able to load rounds via stripper clip from our charger bridge right here into our magazine. And then after that, we would clip our safety, and in this particular case, the bolt went home. But normally you would pull this back ever so slightly, and then the bolt would go home. Like I said, the safety is a little bit messed up on this particular one, which is why I always pull the magazine out to reload this gun. But I don't really show this thing off because there's not very much point in me showing it off. If I'm talking about 8mm Mauser, odds are I'm going to show off like my German Kar 98K or some sort of bolt action variant, which people are way more familiar with. So this, unless I'm talking about Hakim's or semi-auto 8mm, which isn't very often, it just kind of stays out of the videos. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. This one right here is number 5. This is a Kyber Pass Lee Enfield. It's a single shot, and it's clearly completely handmade. I'm pretty sure that the barrel is made out of rebar, and I'm absolutely never going to take this thing out to shoot. I think the bolt itself is a factory bolt because it's got factory markings on it, but the cocking piece is definitely handmade. Maybe it's just the bolt head that is an actual bolt piece. Anyway, whenever I show off things like this, it's not very often that I show off things like this. I mean, it's a really cool gun. It's a completely handmade #1 Mark III or maybe a Lee Metford pattern, because we are missing the charger bridge up here, but it's a single shot, so who really cares about that? But this right here is a completely handmade piece, and there's no way that I would ever go out and actually shoot it. I might run some black powder 303 through this, but nah. The barrel in this thing, like the rifling, you can see how they tried making rifling in it, but I don't know what tool it is that they were using because the rifling is not even whatsoever. So that barrel is definitely handmade. The front sight on this is clearly like milled and then soldered on. The dovetail just doesn't exist, so this is not adjustable for windage at all. The sights on this thing, it looks like they're rated for 500 yards, but whenever we bump this out for 500 yards, our sight base doesn't raise very much, so that tells me that they didn't really know how that worked. I just would not feel comfortable taking this thing out to shoot it, and I've never shot it. And unless we're talking about specifically like handmade guns or anything like that, then there's really no point for me to break this thing out. So that's just another piece of the collection that has fallen to the wayside to gather dust simply because we never really talk about it. Alright, up next, this one right here definitely falls into the category of things we never talk about. I have this old Remington rolling block, and it is a 28 gauge shotgun, and it's cool. It's a single shot breech loader. You open up your breech, just the way the thing is designed, the receiver can be made nice and tiny, so you could have a really compact firearm in theory. But you open up your breech, you slide your round in, you close it, you pull your trigger, it goes bang, you cock your hammer back again, and you remove your cartridge, put another one in. It's a very simple system, and it's very strong and easy to manufacture. It's so strong that this right here was a black powder gun, but you can fire smokeless powder shotgun shells through it without any problem whatsoever. I just never really break this thing out because normally if I'm talking about firearms from this time period, I'll just show off a trapdoor Springfield in 4570 simply because I really like trapdoor Springfields and I really like the 4570 cartridge, as opposed to showing off a Remington rolling block that's been reconfigured for a 28 gauge shotgun shell. I actually took this out not too terribly long ago to the range. I had a range day with Battlefield Curator, and I'm not sure if we caught it on camera, but we were doing clay pigeon shooting with this old thing, and I won't lie, that was pretty fun. But this is just one of those things that I don't really show off because the topics that we normally talk about, like, there's nowhere really in the conversations that we have where a Remington rolling block should pop up instead of something like a trapdoor Springfield. Alright, up next, you guys don't really see these very often from me. Any of my Swiss straight pull rifles. I've got this one. This is a Swiss 1889 which is a 7.5 by 53.5 cartridge, so you don't want to load the full power GP11 ammo. I think that's a designation for the 7.5 by 55 round. I'm just not really that big of a fan of straight pull rifles in general. Same reason why I don't really show off my Snider M95s unless I'm specifically talking about something that would have to do with the Snider M95. Don't get me wrong, these are really nice rifles. They're smooth, they're comfortable, they're a little heavy for my taste, but that's pretty common and typical for the time period that we're talking about. I'm just not really all that big of a fan of straight pull rifles, so unless we're talking about something specifically having to do with either straight pull guns or Swiss guns, I don't really break them out. Alright, this is an unusual one for you guys. This is a Snider. This one right here is a Snider that was re-updated to a hunter pattern of Snider, which essentially means that it was converted into a shotgun. This one is a 12 gauge shotgun, but what is supposed to happen with these is they're supposed to have a firing pin that goes through the breech block to smack a 12 gauge shotgun shell to ignite the primer on that 12 gauge shotgun shell, but this one's a little unusual. So this one actually has a percussion cap nipple on it, and you're supposed to open this and breech load it like you would a black powder muzzle loader or black powder, like a normal non-cartridge black powder breech loader. And it's just a really unusual style of firearm. So you drop your ball in or your shot or your whatever, if you're using a paper cartridge, whatever sort of setup or system it is that you have, you load that in there, close it up, put a percussion cap on this thing, and then you would pull the trigger and it would go bang. The actual lockup system on this is basically non-existent because it's 150 years old, and I don't know how comfortable I'd be actually pulling the trigger on this thing. Even with black powder. Wow, that was a big hiccup. I get the hiccups whenever I talk a bunch. I'm sorry, guys. But even with black powder, I don't know how comfortable I would be actually firing this thing. It just doesn't seem like it would be that strong of a lockup. But it is a cool piece to have in the collection. I just don't really get the opportunity to talk about it all that much because it's one of those things that is very niche and unusual. And if I'm talking about something that has anything to do with anything, odds are this rifle or this shotgun conversion is not going to be coming up in conversation. Alright, I realize that we have one left, but I actually have two rifles laying here, so we're going to go ahead and look at them both. These right here, well, this particular one is an Arisaka. This particular one is a 7.7 Jap Type 99 Arisaka. Nothing real special about it. It's pretty run-of-the-mill. It has its mum intact 7.7 Jap. I've taken this out and shot it on the channel. It's just not something that you guys see very often because 7.7 Jap ammunition is very expensive, and there's not really all that much that comes up in conversation where I'm like, hey, showing off a 7.7 Jap Arisaka is a better idea than showing off, say, a 308 or an 8mm Mauser or a 30-06 or insert your choice of other rifle here. It just doesn't really lend itself to being like just the conversations that we have. It doesn't really lend itself to being a priority whenever it comes to the videos that I make. So as a result, it just kind of falls to the wayside. It's not just this Arisaka. Basically all of my Arisaka rifles. I got 6.5 and 7.7 Jap Arisakas that we don't really see on the channel anymore. Alright, camera angle moved because I bumped it. I also have a bunch of French guns that we never really look at, simply because 7.5 French is not really something that I can find laying around all that readily available. And I mean, I do have some brass, I do some reloading, but it's basically like it's got the ballistic capabilities of a 308, so if I'm going to go out and shoot a gun, why not bring out a 308, which would be significantly, logistically speaking, easier to run. I have shot my French guns before on the channel. I think I've basically shot every French gun that I have besides my 49-56 right here, which I still have to make time to go to the range to be able to shoot that thing. Yes, I'm aware of the firing pin issues. Thank you for letting me know for the millionth time. So, the French guns, I mean, who really cares about them unless your name is Ian? I don't have a particular affiliation with these French firearms. I don't have a particular desire or drive or anything like that to break these out as opposed to something else. Very rarely will I be talking about something where I'm like, oh, this Moss 36 will be a excellent example, whereas this Mauser or this Mosin or this Lee Enfield would not be, and it just kind of has fallen to the wayside as a result of that. So I guess that's 11 guns. There's 11 guns that you guys don't really see all that often on the channel. I figured I'd break them out and let you guys look at them. So thanks for watching. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is linked to all sorts of stuff to go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.